All right, spoilers discussion. I guess this isn't really a spoiler, but it's just something I wanted to discuss while I have your attention here. Uh, I think a lot of people were expecting this book that Christopher, the Fork, the Witch, and the Worm. I think a lot of people were expecting it to be another 1,000 page kind of addition to this series, and they're expecting probably another epic battle and uh, another just grandiose tale. And I think when writing this anthology, Polini's kind of compressing what he's kind of been known for, and he's kind of shrinking down and scaling back kind of his writing in a way that I think is actually good. Because he's, instead of having these really lengthy written works, he can just cut out whatever extra bit there may be and kind of compress what he wants to say. And it's actually harder. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but in a lot of respects, it's actually harder to write a short story than it is a novel, especially a good one, because you have to compress all these ideas into a short space, and you really have to edit down, what is important for the story and what isn't. And so when you're working kind of under this word crunch, a lot of an author's best work can come out during this time. That's not to say that novels can't be good and that Christopher's other works aren't good, but I think when writing these short stories, it's kind of just a testament to how his writing style has evolved over time. There's a quote by Blaise Pascal that reads, "I only have made this letter longer because I have not had the time to make it shorter." And I think that rings true. So let's move on to some of the spoilers. So yeah, it was Murtagh in the fork story with Essie, who enchanted her fork, and then it's kind of, I forget why he wasn't wearing any swords or anything. I think maybe he left his weapons back with Thorn. Thorn's the name of his dragon, if I remember. God, this is really stretching my memory here. It's been so long. Yeah, Murtagh. So he was looking for eggs, and they said it was an entire field of kind of these burnt, rotting eggs. And it really begs the question, what were those eggs, and who burnt them, and are they destroyed since they're burnt, or do they just look burnt? Actually, no, it's later in The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm. Somebody mentioned something about Razak eggs. I think it's when Aragorn is talking to they're not orcs, the Urgles. When Aragorn's talking to the Urgles, I think somebody mentioned something about Razak eggs, and I think that maybe what Murtagh found here. And I think maybe that's what Murtagh's doing now, is he's wandering around Algasia looking for these Razak eggs so he can destroy them, maybe? Because apparently it's mentioned that Gelbatorg scattered some across Algasia, and you'd think that the Razak monster, the parents' monster, I can't pronounce their name right now, Lethri Braca or whatever, the Razak parents, it makes you question how many eggs did they lay, and if there's a whole field of them, that'd be a whole field of Razak. And maybe that's what that is. Maybe it's a different monster entirely. Maybe they're just dragon eggs and they've been destroyed, and that's where they are. All these kind of possibilities are on the table. And I wonder if we're not going to see more of Essie in the future. Maybe she's just this one-off character that was meant for Murtagh, but you never know. She could end up being one of the characters that they have fight against whatever threats coming to Algasia in the future. I think there's probably going to be a threat that they're going to have to fight against again, and I think it might be the Razak or something else. We'll just have to see. Maybe the riders will come in and assist with that. It'd be cool. Is there anything else from that story that was really a reveal? Yeah, when I was reading that, I knew, like, I thought it was Murtagh, but I just, like, wasn't really sure, because he didn't have anything that really identified him. And that was kind of the point, because he was trying to hide and pretend he wasn't rich, because some, like, robbers jumped him and tried to rob him earlier, so... Angela's story, I think, had a lot of this ambiguity in it, and at least the initial parts, and I think it was interesting. I'm not entirely sure, like, what library she was talking about, and whether she was time traveling, or if she was in some sort of, like, godly library, getting, like, this, like, forbidden knowledge. Obviously it was forbidden knowledge because she entered this, like, specific room that she wasn't supposed to go into, and stuff kind of, like, I think she got, like, stuck in there. And yeah, a lot of, like, creation myths kind of have this same thing going on, where characters go and seek the forbidden knowledge, and then something bad happens, but the knowledge is, like, given to, like, the rest of the races or whatever. Kind of like the forbidden fruit in Adam and Eve, or the fire from the Greek stories that's stolen by, like, maybe Prometheus or whoever it is. So I wonder if that's, like, what they're referencing there, and I wonder, like, how far that rabbit hole goes. Like, what kind of library was she at? Like, was it the writer's library in the past, in the future? Like, is it a library that's still around and she just kind of plain shift walked there, like she's been doing? I don't know. And yeah, that's just about all I have to say. I don't remember enough about the rest of the series to really go any deeper. I don't even remember people's names right now, but I think there's a lot of people who are smarter than me that might find something interesting in there. Maybe make a theory about something that's going to happen in the future. I don't know. Oh yeah, coming back to the fork. I thought it was pretty cute that she named it Mr. Stabby, but when I was talking about how the story itself really didn't take itself too seriously, that's kind of where that stemmed from. Like, yeah, I laughed out loud reading that, but I'm like, yeah, I think there's people that'll be like, that don't have a good sense of humor, that'll be like, well, this is stupid. So I don't know. I'm not part of that camp. I thought it was charming, but I know there's going to be some people that are looking for some gritty, head smashing, dark, people's families getting devoured sort of thing, and that story probably didn't get their fix. The worm would, though. And speaking of the worm, man, that was a good story. It was just plain good, like, just flat out. Really enjoyed it. It didn't, I don't know, it left me kind of with this hollow, empty kind of feeling, kind of like how a horror story leaves you. And the way the plot and things kind of just kept getting worse and worse for this character as she tried to, like, enact her revenge. Very reminiscent of how horror works. Usually everything keeps getting worse and worse until finally there's kind of this unresolved conclusion that happens at the end. Yeah, very good. If a little kind of preachy, because I mean, whatever's happening with Aragon and kind of Aragon's overarching story, like he's suddenly like given a lesson like right after. So if he's like struggling to deal with the death of people that he can't save, even though he's got all this power, and the story's kind of like, hey, don't sweat the small stuff. Like, don't worry about what you can't control. And the dragon, I think, in this story was kind of and the worm was meant to, it's pretty obvious, but it was meant to represent like death and how you can't stop death, basically, and how death is this, is basically this being that doesn't really care who or what you are, and it doesn't really recognize you. It takes you regardless, which is interesting because the dragon recognized the Urgal shaman warrior right at the very end, and that's interesting. Like, that's an interesting something to consider, that you can do something that would make death recognize you. Like, maybe I'm taking this metaphor a little too far for what Polini is trying to say here, but yeah, because the dragon recognizes her for a very brief moment. So I wonder if there isn't like a god of death, or like a spirit of death, or maybe like a amalgamation of magic that is kind of this death thing that kind of has this semi-conscious in the Aragon world. It's a good question to ask, I think. Who knows? I don't think we'll see it. Well, maybe there'll be some like necromancy stuff. Aragon said that he's not gonna do the necromancy stuff, that he's basically done with that. And I think he decided that with Braum too. He could have tried to bring Braum back, but he's like, no, that's probably not a good idea. And I wonder if that will kind of be explored in the future, where maybe we'll get a short story where somebody tries to bring somebody back from the dead, and we get to see kind of the consequences from that. Whether it be like a horror story or kind of this sad tale will be determined, I suppose. So, final thoughts. I think it was good. I think some fans are going to be a little disappointed because it's not what they were expecting. Because I think a lot of fans would be expecting this long, lengthy, like I said, grandiose sort of work. And this is not that. It's kind of more like a love letter to the fans. A really short and sweet love letter than this, it's a love letter as opposed to buying the fans a new truck. We'll put it that way. And I think it works for what it's meant to be. And I was watching this other review. I forget who it was. I'll probably put their link in the description. But they were talking about how authors, when they go like post work, oftentimes they don't really respect what's been created already, and they kind of trash it, and they kind of make this tension that happens where, like, Harry Potter, alright, and the book that came after that, like, you just kind of hate the characters that you've grown to love. Or if you're an anime fan, you could have Boruto and kind of how spoiled Boruto is after the fact. Or what else? What other series did that shit? Yeah, but if you have an author that's like changing the canon and changing the characters and their, like, who they are and like what they are, just because, like, just on a whim, I think that really angers fans after the fact, because it's like, this character would never do this, or you describe this character in such a such way, why are they different now? Or, there's always like the after the fact, the bratty son of the hero kind of story that we're getting a lot, and I don't feel like it has to be that way. Like, I feel like that's a bad cliche, and I feel like personally, that's the kind of story that I hate a lot. Anyway, it just irks me, and I think Pollini avoided a lot of that. In fact, he avoided all of that. He did a really good job, and this is in no way a subversion of the tetralogy that we got. It's very respectful. So there you go. That's my rambling. I'm probably gonna have to edit the crap out of this because I just sat here and said a bunch of nonsensical things for about 20 minutes. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I don't know what review I will be doing next. Probably not for a new book. It will probably be for an older book that I read during the summer. I just recently read this one. So we're on the up and up. Well, we were on the up and up here. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll catch you later. Have a great day.